Hello guys, and welcome to this Christmas edition of I have never made a tutorial before video. Today we will be drinking a lot of tea and we will be totally destroying this little guy over here. His name, Surface Pro 5. You may ask, why would you do anything like that? He's just a baby. But I would say that's a special bastard. He needs some special treatment when it comes to So that's why I make this video, because I want to tell you about some tricks and quirks when it comes to this specific hardware, on how to set up a good and working dual boot system with Windows and Linux, and rEFInd meeting us at the doorsteps. So this video is not exactly a tutorial, it's more like a documentation. So I have collected some information that I have found useful through the years in order to correctly set up this dual boot system on my Surface. So that's what I put into one place into this video to make it easier for me and maybe also for others who are going to do the same things as me. Considering that this is just documentation, feel free to jump to the chapters that you feel are relevant to you. Oh, the candle is on once more. Although, keep in mind that I will be doing everything in some Linux distro. I will indeed explain, or at least mention, how you can do it in Windows. But just keep in mind that this is how I do it. So we will be setting up Windows in a way that's totally compatible with this specific hardware. We will be installing EndeavourOS, so this Arch-based Linux distro. We will have Sway on it, quite interesting actually, and exotic. And rEFInd, which kind of rounds the corners in this dual boot system. And we will also be addressing some typical issues like secure boot and stuff like that. Also, this PC is kind of messy, so that's maybe the main reason why I want to wipe everything and start anew. Also, this video is for noobs like me with Surfaces Pro that are afraid of bricking their device if they do something wrong. So I will show things that you can do without bricking it, and I guess that actually bricking it is quite difficult, so don't be afraid. So as you can see here, the main SSD here is just 256 gigs in size, and it contains a lot of partitions which are totally unnecessary. So we'll cut it down so that I only have this main Windows partition with 127 gigs, and the EndeavourOS will take approximately 108 gigs. That's what I will allocate for it, like in total, so it will be the home folder and the boot and everything will be there. And the rest is of course all the unavoidable partitions. And in addition to that, I have an SD card on the back of this little guy. It's quite big. It will contain all the static files like documents, videos, pictures, and also large ISO files, which is quite convenient because then I can open them, if this is formatted exFAT, so I can open them both from Windows and from Linux. Quite convenient. Now that I have stated the purpose and made some approximate description of what we are going to do, it's best to start with the prerequisites, and we will be starting with hardware. Like, what do we need? Of course we need the Surface Pro 5, or maybe 4 or 6 could actually work too. I think the 3 would not work in the same way, especially when it comes to the UEFI and how it's set up and how it works. But some of the closer models to this 5, they they could be quite similar, I suppose. Then of course you need something like a type cover. It could also be a USB keyboard. And this leads us to another very important thing that I use a lot, and it's a USB hub. This one has 4 slots. For me it's enough, and actually you could have a USB keyboard here and a mouse and a USB stick. That's another thing that we will be needing. I only need 1, but there are ways to do this with 2, for example. I can explain it later. Also, I would recommend something like a big hard disk. This one has 5 bytes. Oh, sorry, like terabytes. I'm quite terrible at such jokes, sorry. But it's quite necessary because all good Christians make backups before they do anything like what we are going to be doing now, like wiping this whole system and installing everything anew. So be prepared. And in addition, I would actually state that this thing here, like a USB keyboard, would not be sufficient, because we will run into situations when it's not enough. So let's talk about software prerequisites. I mean, every time I go into the valley of death, the grace of this wonderful utility shines upon me, and its name is Ventoy. Here you can see the link to the tutorial on how to install it in Windows even. So you can install it from anywhere onto your USB stick, which I have inserted here. So it's quite a thorough guide. Just follow it, install. I will not be showing it in this video. Install it, and then you will have a USB that looks something like this. You will have 2 partitions on it actually. One that looks like this. It's a EFI partition, so it will help you boot like if it were some GPT. Then you have the main partition, which is quite big, which is in my case some 20 gigs inside. And what's cool about this utility is that you just drop off some ISO files like this EndeavourOS ISO or Windows installer ISO, and when you boot into the USB, you will get a list or a menu, like if it were grub or grub, you know. And you can just choose the thing you want to boot. Here's Ubuntu, for example, or some other Arch Linux and stuff like that. Everything will be there and you can boot from it. And it's just so genius. I think it's the greatest invention in human history since the wheel. So please use it, even though you have 2 USBs or stuff like that. Just, I really recommend this tool. Just have it. Now that you have Ventoy, you can either do the normal way, that you turn it on, then you press the up button, just keep it there. Then you get into the UEFI menu here. You can always change the boot configuration, put the USB storage on top, but I don't want that. I want to go into my rEFInd again, and that's the good thing about it, that when you just put the USB in there, it will show it to us. So just wait a little bit, and there it is, you know, this little USB sign. Then we press it and we get into our Ventoy, and we can indeed boot our Ubuntu there. Now maybe the most important software to have is the EndeavourOS ISO file, and it can be found on this EndeavourOS latest release page. It's nothing difficult, just download the thing that is compatible with our version. I download it from Sweden because I am in Norway. It's the closest, so it will be quite fast. In my case, as of end of December, this is the newest version, Endeavour Cassini. So that's what I am downloading now. And as you see, I am still in Linux. If you have used Windows to create this Ventoy USB, you can just drop off Ubuntu. I really recommend Ubuntu to use it. A distribution of Ubuntu there, and is ISO file, and then boot from it, and then you can do everything just as I do. There's no real difference. And as I have talked, it's almost done. Well, it is done, so we just copy it over to our USB here. I can go to downloads, there it is, Control C, and actually since this is an outdated, this is Artemis Nova, I just delete it, and then I passed our new EndeavourOS here. You see it copies. Now that we have our EndeavourOS in place, we need some drivers, because we will be installing the Sway edition, and for that we need internet. But the problem is that the Marvell drivers are not included in the normal version, this ISO that we just downloaded. So we'll have to do it ourselves to include those modules after we have booted into the live USB, so to speak. So open DuckDuckGo, write in this Linux firmware Marvell download. You can probably write Arch or something like that for specifics, and press this here. Then we'll be needing the x86-64, so we press this. There may be a CAPTCHA here, but it's not. We can avoid that. So if you're a robot, you will have problems downloading this. Then you see here download, take this URL, copy it, paste it, and there we have it. Then we're downloading our drivers. So take those drivers and copy them to your USB, which you'll be using to, do everything. We are moving. That's my folder where I keep things. These are actually old ones, so I can delete them. Nice. Then we have done that. Now comes the part which has to do with Windows. And I have seen a lot of tutorials where they just take the stock Windows version and install it on a Surface. But the problem is that this touchscreen needs some special drivers to be there in the first place. So there is a correct way to do this. And I have actually done it even more difficult for myself because I only have one USB. And we'll be talking about that more. But let's now head over to DuckDuckGo. Type in download recovery image surface, and then this first link here, we press it. Select your Surface product. In our case, it's Surface Pro 5. There, 5th generation here. Then we'll need a serial number, and then we can download an image here. I will recommend to download the latest one. So here, I will not download it now, but because I have already done so. The next thing that we are going to do, ironically, is to actually download the stock ISO of Windows 10. So I just search for download Windows 10 in DuckDuckGo. Then I enter this link. Then I choose Windows 10 multi-edition. Confirm. This is Norwegian. I actually prefer English. Then confirm. Just follow this thing. It's not difficult. Don't download the 64-bit version. I will not do it now. but because I have everything already. So now we have this Surface BMR folder or package, and we have the Windows ISO. So what will we do now? That's the question. Now let's say you have the Surface Pro 5 BMR, this thing we downloaded previously, and you have extracted it so that you have this folder that looks like this. And you enter there and you see all these folders, boot manager, and so on and so on. Okay, that's one thing, that's one component. The second component, which we just downloaded, was this ISO for Windows 10. So what do we do? Now we are in Linux, so we open a terminal in this folder, or you can always navigate to it since it's downloads. Open terminal. Then what do we do? I've actually already written in something like this. So we have to write this sudo mount -t udf, and then we write the name of the file. In our case it's win something. And where do we want to mount it? In my case it's in a folder in my home folder called mount. So I recommend just have a folder where you can mount things. For me it's this folder. So let's do it like this. I write in my password. And now it's mounted. Why did we do that? Well, in order to extract the files from here. So what do? It's read only, so we take the files, we copy them, and we place them into some folder. Let's say we create a folder here. We call it Windows Magic, and we enter this folder and we copy the things into here. It will take some time. In the meantime, I think it's tea party time. Yeah, you hear that sound? That's the sound of Christmas coziness, yeah. Great. Yeah, just as we light our candle, the files are copied over. Great. So what do we do now? Well, the first thing that I would do anyway is to go to sources and delete the file called install vim. So delete it. It doesn't have to be there. Then, when that is done, you have to take all the files from here, select everything, then you copy it and you paste it into this Windows Magic folder. It will take a lot of time because it's, 12 gigs of data, I suppose. And when you come to these things, you have to merge. Just to explain to you that all of this is actually not a necessity. Sorry, not sorry. You could actually, if you have two USBs and you have Windows, then you can follow the official guide on how to make this work, so that you create a bootable media. It's some built-in program in Windows. Then you copy all that content of the BMR folder in there, and then that will be a bootable USB, totally working and fine. But then you need a whole USB just for that. You cannot boot anything more from that USB, like I will be doing with my Ventoy utility. So now when we come to something like this, what do? We replace. Now we have run into some more questions here. I think that those files are actually identical, but I will replace it anyway. What is this? Also identical, but still replace. Yeah, that's it. When you have this folder ready, what do you do then? That's the question. That will be, you open the terminal in this folder. So we open terminal, and then I have actually somewhere here written down a magic formula for you. It's exactly here. I will have it in the description too, in text format, so it will be not so difficult to just copy it. Then you paste it here. We can actually go a little bit through this. This is we will make a ISO. We just follow all the standards, so that we need to include some, boot information, eltorito, blah blah blah. You can actually read about this on the internet. But probably the most important thing, you have to name, give the name of the file which we will make now, which we will produce. So I just called it Windows Reloaded, and then we need this little dot in there. It's very important to have it there. If it's not there, it will curse at you, this program. I think I will press enter, but I will not finish this job. I will just show you how it starts. Yeah, you see, it's working, I guess. Yeah, it's working slowly, but it's working. And when it's done, we'll have a file. Because I've already made it, I don't need to run this twice. When we are done, and that will be, since we were working here, so this is the not finished file. It's quite small. But if we finish, we will have something like this, Windows Reloaded, which is 12.7 gigs in size, and I have already copied it to my USB stick. So we have come quite far now. We have our Ventoy here on our USB stick. We have the magic Windows Reloaded here, which will be just perfect for our Surface. And we have EndeavourOS Cassini, the newest edition of it. Also here in my folder We Are Moving, I have already collected the Linux firmware, which I told you about how to download. Yeah, basically that's it. And now the last thing that remains is the rEFInd. What do we need for that? Let's just search for rEFInd download on DuckDuckGo, and we go to this SourceForge link. We press Files, take the newest version, take the one called bin. It has always most downloads, so just look at that. It's called bin. rEFInd bin. Then we download it, and I don't need to do anything because I have it here already. rEFInd bin, the same version. I can open it and look into it and so on. So the second thing and the third thing we have to download comes from this site here. You can see the link. I will also post it in the description. You can also see the heading, so you can just search for this text and you will find this quite easily. Now what do you have to download? It's this, press this link and this link. They will probably say that it's unsecure connection or something like that, but still download. It will be fine. So this and this. I have already downloaded them. They are here. So this shim something and shim signed something. Now, what's the first thing I would do? I would take out everything from this package, everything that we will need so that it's kind of accessible right away. We will be needing things from this folder, rEFInd. We will need the x64 rEFInd, so just drag it out of here. We will need drivers for, again, x64, but we will be using the x64 file system, so let's drag this out too. Then we have even more files. They will be useful for us later. We need the icons so that it looks great. In keys, we will be needing the thing called rEFInd.cer, because it's a certificate. We will be needing to use that. Now fonts, yeah, probably fonts will be great, and banners too. Yeah, I'm still missing something. Yeah, there, rEFInd conf sample. We need this one. We'll just rename it. It's quite important that we rename it into just rEFInd conf. Now this file is quite important. I mean, timeout is like how long does this screen last and so on. You can always tweak it as much as you like. What I would do is to enable touch. So I search for touch, enable touch, and then I uncomment it. So I delete this hashtag. Now it's uncommented. And when we use this later, it will be with touch. Yes. So now we have everything we needed. See, what can we do with these two guys here? Now let's organize a little bit. The things that we just extracted from the rEFInd.bin archive here, let's put it into a folder. Actually, I already have just posted a rEFInd folder here, which contains just the files that I copied from my rEFInd folder that I already have, that I have been using. I've changed something there, so I will be using that. Instead, we can use that as a model, so I just create a folder for you now. So just to show you, rEFInd1, I call it. You can call it rEFInd just like this one. I will show what I will do. We'll just put everything in there right now of the things that we already have extracted. Certs could be great to copy in there. Yeah, that could be a good idea. And icons. So we take that, we copy it into here. Now it's all in one place. Importantly, create new folder, drivers x64. I guess that's what it has to be called. We put this driver in here. Now we are missing three things. One is very important. We have already renamed the rEFInd conf file to the current name, but we also have to rename this into actually just take away rEFInd and write grub like this. Call it that. Now the next things, we just have to follow this instructions. So first we open up the shim without signed. We have to open it as an archive somehow. Archive manager. This one. I'm going to this user. MMX. So this is the mock manager. We take it and we copy it straight into we are moving folder. Now we have to do this almost the same with another file, which is shim signed. data. This one, I guess it's user libshim. We have to use this dual signed thing, so we do like that. Now it's so just need to take those, this mmx, why did it press it, and shim. We have to copy them, put them into your rEFInd folder like this. Rename this one, or you should rename this one just to this shim x64 EFI. Nice. Then you're actually good to go when you have this folder. Now there is only one thing that we are missing, because this shim is signed, so that Windows accepts it as a signed file. It's signed with this third-party Microsoft key. So this one is totally usable. Our rEFInd, which we called group, is signed with a certificate we already have here. It's called rEFInd source. We have to enroll it later on. There's no problem with that. No big hassle. But we need to create some keys. So let's say we open a terminal here. There. There we have it. There we have some magic formulas, because we want to create some certificates and to actually sign some files. Actually, we can go into our rEFInd1 directory. Let's say we go in there, and here we perform our magic. So first of all, we have to create the keys. And what we do here, we create a key of length 2048. It will be called binaries.key. That's the private key, so you have to keep it somewhere safe, maybe on a USB, but at least offline, so that nobody can find it. We will also produce this binaries.crt. I think it's for testing. Now we create it, and my name is Zeddicus, even though it's not true, but still. Okay, now in our rEFInd1 we have 2 extra files. This key is very sensitive. This one is just okay. Because what's not signed? That's the question. That's the big good question. The driver in here is not signed, this X4. We have to sign it if it's going to work. So how do we sign it? First of all, we have to create this binaries.cer file, and there we did. Just now we have the cer, the CRT, and the key files. The last thing we have to do is to actually sign our driver. So let's just copy out to this. It will actually get a little bit bigger. That's the thing. We have it in the same folder or the same directory as binaries key. That's very important to have them there. Then I don't need to point anywhere. Yeah, sbsign. Okay. It's possible that you will have to download some of those packages that do this thing, but don't worry, you'll figure it out. Yeah. We have this signed thing here because it's signed probably with something that the thing won't accept. I'm not sure, but I do it for in case. As you see, this file is a little bit smaller than this because this one is signed. So let's return it back to drivers, and we can, let's say we rename this into .old, and we rename this so that it's called not signed, but just the normal name of the driver. Okay, then you're good to go. Actually, because you have everything. Now I wouldn't keep those files. I mean, the binaries.cer, you can always put them into your certs folder. I have already put it here. It's signed with something else actually, so I will not be using this folder. It's just for showing you how to do this, and keep this in some safe space. I actually encrypt it with my TrueCrypt, and so that nobody can access that. I recommend something like that. And I guess that now we are very good to go. The first thing we'll be doing now will be to actually install the Windows. Let the action begin. Then one little final piece of advice. This we are moving folder that I previously had on my Revenant, or this USB stick. Better to move it to the SD card, as I've done now. So have it somewhere else, but not on the USB stick necessarily. I would recommend that. Now comes the solemn part, and the scary part too. And yeah, this little device that I have built for so long time will now be erased, and everything will be rebuilt again. And actually I'm a little bit afraid, what if something goes wrong? But then I will eat some clementine and drink some tea, and after that we will begin. Now let me show what I'm going to do. I have this inserted like that, but I want to insert it through this little helping hand here, like this. So that's what we need. I would also recommend to actually take out the SD card just for now, just in case. We'll not be deleting anything on it anyway. There are just files on it. So let's keep it in a safe place and not touch it. So how does this work? We just turn it on. I've previously shown how to, change the boot order, but I will do it simple. Let's boot from this one. Yeah, and then we navigate down to the bottom to Windows Reloaded. We boot it in normal mode. We could put it in WinBoot too, but let's do it the normal mode. Press any key. Now, as you see here, touch works quite fine. So, good. Choose the language. English United Kingdom will do. Choose the keyboard layout. I'm Norwegian, so I need a Norwegian layout, because that's what I'm used to. It's not so different from English, but some special signs are in other locations, and I hate that. Then we do as all the tutorials on the internet do. We recover from a drive. Clean the drive fully would be a thing, but I think it's for recycling, so it will just delete everything. You can't recover anything after that, but it doesn't really, it's the same for me. I could just remove my files. Then we press recover, and it will do everything from bare bones. The good thing about this process, and what makes my heart warm, is that I have made a backup on this here. So if something goes wrong, I can always restore everything because all the information is here. So actually I'm quite good at heart. It's just that in case something goes wrong, it will take a lot of time to restore it again, and I hate that. But yeah, it's worth it. Let the bots work, I'll go and do something else. Now it's the moment of truth. I don't even know if I have to cry or to rejoice. I have prepared for this for a half year and now it works. And as you see, the touch also works as it should. And I did everything with an ISO and I'm so happy and so proud of myself. So I will probably cut this out in the... But let's do it as we always do. Now I accept my fate. Now we'll meet. I've shown you this process that I am not kidding with you, but we will probably meet later when we come to repartitioning drives for the next step for the Linux installation. So see you soon. Now that we have come this far, we should start by updating our system. I don't need to show you how to do this. This is easy. So it has taken about 2 hours to update this whole system for itself. So be patient and wait. Really, it takes a lot of time. Now I have inserted my SD card back into this little friend. And what we will be doing next is, of course, like repartitioning from Windows. We just have to allocate a little bit more space here in the end of our C drive. Let's allocate 108 gigabytes, or gigabytes, it will be more correct, to our Linux partition. Let's see how we do that. Shrink volume. By how much? Around 108. Shrink. So now this is unallocated space, and later when we install our Linux, we can use this, utilize it. And that's it. We are ready to install the next thing. Yes. One thing you can actually do after the update and installation of Windows is complete is to clean your files. Just don't forget to do that. But one very important thing when it comes to dual boot, let's go to the control panel. So I press super user R, then I press enter. When I have written control, I come to the control panel. Here we have to go to power options. Choose what closing the lid does. This one. And change settings that are currently unavailable. This turn on fast startup, we have to uncheck it, and we have to save the changes, because when it's in this hybrid mode, there can be some or the errors that happen to file system are more frequent, so I really recommend turning that off, especially if we have this dual boot setup. So that was basically it. So now we have finished setting up Windows. Let's get started. Press start this time. Press this power. And while pressing shift, press restart. Let's press, click on this troubleshoot, advanced options, and let's go to the EFI firmware settings. So while we are here, we need to do some changes. First of all, in security, we go to secure boot, change configuration, and we click none. We have to disable it just for now so that we can enroll some keys. I have some boot configuration here from before, but I will just delete everything that's not Windows Boot Manager. So I'll delete this, delete boot option, okay. This one too, because it doesn't exist on my system anymore. rEFInd boot manager, it's also not appropriate. Okay. So now we only have Windows Boot Manager and USB storage. That's the things we really have. Now, exit. Let's actually move this USB up, because we will be starting from it. Now my USB stick is here. I will insert it into my device. Then we press exit and restart now. So now we are here. Let's go to this mmx64.efi. Now press any key to perform some enrollment. Enroll key from disk. Now where do we have our keys? Ventoy, I guess. Here we have a key. Yeah, it's this one. Enroll it, and then we can press continue boot. Just wait some seconds. And we are back here again. Here we can actually press F5 like this, go power, we go reboot to EFI setup, then we can again enable secure boot. Security, change configuration, and now change to Microsoft and third-party CA. That's important. Exit, restart now. So now we can boot into Ventoy because its key is enrolled. Okay, let's start our Endeavour Cassini. And it's very important that we start it in group 2 mode, not the normal mode. Otherwise it won't boot. So here we have a live session of EndeavourOS. Now, what are we going to do? In order to make this whole setup more readable, I just went into Appearance, and in Settings here I chose Window Scaling X2, so now you can a little bit more easily read what's written here. Okay, let's open a terminal and make sure that you also have something attached that contains all the data that we collected before, all those certificates and blah blah blah. I have it on my SD card on behind there. So okay, now here I want to see a list of whatever devices we have here. And this is our built-in hard disk. Here is the EFI partition. That's where we will put our rEFInd. How do we do that? First we have to mount it somewhere. So, and since we are in the home folder of this live user, let's mkdir mount. So we create a directory called mount, and then we sudo mount our dev / this one, and partition 1 we mount it to mount this folder that we just created. So here it is. If we go to live user, maybe I want to open another window. Live user, we go to mount, and here we see this EFI folder, and actually this rEFInd folder that you created earlier, you can just copy it here and it will be sufficient. So we will have to write something like sudo cp, then this run media live user. Sorry, I forgot the -r. Now, here we have our rEFInd with everything. Now, before we proceed with the installation of our Linux distro, I wanted to see if we could add a boot entry for our rEFInd that we just copied, so that it's actually correct too. So here I have this little formula. Let's see if it actually works. So what do we have here? We have the
sudo boot manager create for the disk that's on this device, the first partition. That's what our FE partition is, the first one. Then the location of the file, rEFInd shimx blah blah blah. Remember this, that you have to point to shimx64 because it in turn points to the grob FE file. And what's the name of the entry? It will be rEFInd. Okay, let's see. I just did the restart right after writing in the entry, the boot entry for our rEFInd, and it's actually working out of the box. So it's not difficult at all. Now that rEFInd is up and running, we can actually proceed to the installation of our Linux distro. And I have to say one thing, and it's that the fact that my rEFInd runs out of the box can be just a special case for me because I've already used it on this PC and I'm not sure where those keys are stored. It's possible that it's actually stored somewhere in the BIOS. This means that if you do the same as me, you may run into the fact that you will be greeted with this mock utility, and then you just have to enroll the keys that you have copied over to that partition already. I mean the rEFInd.cer. You have just to enroll it and then it will work fine. So okay. First thing we are going to do here is to make internet work. How do we do that? So we have some files prepared here from before. It's on my SD card, which I have inserted in behind here, but you can use some other device with this USB hub and so on. And we have this Linux firmware. Let's copy it to our home folder in this live session. So first, let's open a terminal in our home folder. Then we'll install the package actually. Pacman -u and the name of it was something like Linux, like this. Yeah, always remember sudo. Yes. Okay, now it's done. Next step, we'll have to go to this location here. I'll just copy the things I've prepared here. So so cd and then lib modules, this version of Arch, kernel driver net wireless Marvell MW or MWI5X. So we are there now in that particular location. Now let's work on this package. So just run this command, sudo zstd-d and so on. Now it's probably extracted. Now we have to remove this module. This is the command. And then we have to insert the new model. Have to insert the new module like this. And here internet should begin to work. Here we already have some Bluetooth. If you run into some issues when it comes to this, because there is a button here which you can press and then choose your Wi-Fi, but if you run into some problems because you have resized everything, then you can do it manually. So just list all the devices that are available using this command here. Then you'll get a list, and yes, choose your network, use the SSID or BSSID to connect to it using this kind of formula. Wait, this one, this formula here. So just write it and then you will connect to some network. So now I am connected. I am on the internet. I can go and browse something. So here we are. It's the Wi-Fi is up and running. So since I want the EndeavourOS Sway edition, I will not press this start the installer. I will press start or install community editions. So I am going to choose my Sway edition. Next. So what packages? I'm actually not so much into it. Here I can't help you. This is new for me too. I will probably just choose the basics. Maybe exclude some things that I find totally irrelevant, but you have to choose yourself. It's a personal choice. So here when we choose the bootloader, let's actually choose grub, just for in case something bad happens. Then manual partitioning. And here now, so first of all, let's actually set a mount point for our EFI partition. So let's edit it and just say that it's mounted on boot EFI like this. Okay. And this free space, let's create a partition here. It will be formatted ext4. We do not encrypt it, but let's set a mount point. It will be the root, so just a slash. Let's call it something like black lodge. Okay. So we have a root partition, we have the EFI, which is defined. Okay. Let's proceed. Install now. Let's see what happens. Now our party is coming to a closure. As you see here, I've successfully booted into Windows even after installing our Linux distro. But keep in mind that after you have installed the EndeavourOS, the kernel is not signed, so will not boot in secure boot mode. So you have to turn off secure boot first, then you are good to do something like signing the bootloader. For example, here it's actually my rEFInd recognizes it right away, so I can just press it and then I will boot into my EndeavourOS. So this is how it looks. There are several ways to solve the problem with secure boot. One is of course to just sign the kernels, as I showed previously with the driver how to sign that. You just do it the same way. And then you can use a live session of Ubuntu or something like that. Since you have Ventoy now, you can do almost anything. Or I think it could work to just install those Linux Surface kernels. I can actually show you how to find those. I'm not sure if I'm connected to anything. I think I am. Yeah, I am connected. Linux Surface. Here we go to GitHub. And there is quite a detailed installation setup guide here. and there is a section for Arch specifically. So just here is Arch. Yeah. So you just follow this guide. There is something on secure boot 2. So just follow this guide, and there is pretty much a lot of documentation on this in the Arch wiki, how to set it up. So I will not show it here, but it's not that difficult. So I leave it up to you. And now the party is over. The candles are all blown out. So let's finish this video. Now I have just stupidly followed everything that was written in this Surface kernel tutorial. So now I'm going to turn on secure boot again. Okay. Exit, restart now. So let's see, what kind of kernels does this recognize? Yeah, Surface kernel. See the Surface kernel? This one is, yeah, this is the grub. I don't think it even works. But this one will probably work out of the box. Yeah, you see? Remember that you have to enroll the keys using this blue mock manager, which is quite dreary in a way, because it looks like some blue screen of death or some very old Windows thing. But it's totally safe. You just have to find the keys, you have to enroll them. But it's not really a problem, you won't lose anything. So don't be afraid to do anything like that, just hang on.